Shalom, former Secretary of State Mike Pompeo.
It's great to be with you. Thanks for being kind enough to take some time with me.
So a few words about the award you're receiving tonight, the Crown of Israel Award.
Well, it's very humbling. It was given to me in recognition of the work that so many people on my team did, supporting the relationship with the United States and Israel. It is central to American national security, and it's obviously important to me as a Christian as well.
Secretary of State Blinken is in Israel today. We heard his statements about what he defined as the settlers' violence. He talked also against the building in Judea and Samaria. How do you relate to these statements, especially as they're happening today, as we've seen a terrible terror incident in the streets of Israel, maybe even connected to ISIS?
Yeah, it's inconsistent with reality. We know the truth, that Israel is not an apartheid nation, is not an occupier, that Judea and Samaria are indeed the rightful homeland of the Jewish people. I saw the new ambassador to Israel, U.S. ambassador to Israel, say the other day that these settlements were infuriating. It was infuriating for me to hear him say that. We know that Israel knows how to handle these complex legal situations. We also know, as we said during my time as Secretary of State, that not every settlement is illegal per se, as the UN had said for an awfully long time. We changed U.S. policy there. They have taken a very unbalanced position in this administration, and that is much to the detriment of American security and certainly to the rightful place of the Jewish people in their homeland.
And how do you relate today to what we're seeing regarding the Iranian nuclear plan? Some even are saying that maybe your administration shouldn't have taken itself out of the deal in a way you did. Maybe it is time to get to some sort of deal.
An Iran with more money is a more dangerous Iran. I think that's inescapable, and they're going to end up relieving sanctions that will probably accrue some $90 billion in benefits to the Ayatollah. For those who are worried about terror around the world, for those who are worried about the Iranian people themselves, for those who are concerned about a nuclear weapon in the hands of a religious theocrat running Iran, $90 billion is bad. This is an enormous mistake. They're going to lift sanctions on people who have killed Americans and killed people all across the world. Is it an enormous mistake to sidle up to the Iranians in this way? The deal that they're going to strike is going to be weaker than the one they had before. It's going to be less meaty, less intrusive in inspections than the one that they had before. It does nothing to prevent Iran from ultimately getting a nuclear weapon and a nuclear weapons program.
Do you think it's a done deal, or should Israel still fight to change the deal, to maybe totally make it different?
No, we should all continue to articulate rational reasons why this deal ought not to move forward. Israel should certainly do that. Peace-loving people all around the world, those who worry about nuclear proliferation in the world, we should all continue to make the case for why this administration ought not to do it. I hope that ultimately they come to a conclusion that's different than the one they've been pushing for 15 months now.
Now, as a former Secretary of State, you're seeing the war between Russia and Ukraine. Do you think Israel's role should be much more with Ukraine, because Israel is in a delicate position at this point?
Well, I've seen what the Israeli leadership is trying to do. They're trying to find a way to bring the stalemate to a peaceful ceasefire conclusion. That is going to be necessary. We're going to have to get to that point. I applaud them for that effort. I think Israel was very clear about they know who the aggressor is here. They know who the victims are here. I think they've been very plain about that. I applaud their efforts to try to mediate between the two sides.
How do you look back really at your term in terms of the Israel-U.S. relations? It seemed that it wasn't just that there was a thought that the relations are important and good and positive. It was more than that. It was emotional. It seemed, in your case especially, that it came from the heart.
Yes, it always starts with an understanding and a belief about how it is you take care of the American people. That's your duty as the Secretary of State. But it's very personal for me as well. I care deeply about this relationship. I had studied it when I was a cadet, when I studied the 67 and 73 wars. I knew the history of this place, both its diplomatic history, its military history, the history of its great people. I now know the importance of its economy as well. These are all things that we were passionate about, because it made good sense for the United States of America to have a deep and unabiding relationship with the nation of Israel.
Okay, so Mr. Pompeo, what's next for you in terms of the politics, in terms of your public activity?
So I'm spending all of my time, or nearly all of my time, trying to help candidates win in November of this year. That's my focus. What'll happen for me after that, only the good Lord.
Presidential candidate?
Only time will tell. The things that I worked on when I was a Secretary of State and had the privilege to work on when I represented the people of Kansas, those are near and dear to me. I'll stay in that fight. Who knows what place I'll find myself.
Mr. Mike Pompeo, former Secretary of State, thank you very much.
Thank you, sir.